warehouse maintenance program is used to add, change, or delete warehouses from the system. Warehouses will be the defining point from which inventory movement will take place. Now you can define your warehouses as physical locations, for example like a main warehouse, or they can be defined separately for areas within a warehouse. So you may within a warehouse have a quality control area or a damaged good areas. So by defining areas within a warehouse, the inventory that moves in and out of that area can be easily tracked and valued. For example, you may have products that require quality control analysis. So you can take these products from your main warehouse area and through inter-warehouse transfer these into your quality control warehouse. And then once the product has passed inspection, then it can be transferred back into the main warehouse where it can be used to be shipped out to your customers or be used in various manufacturing areas. Or in the case of a damaged good warehouse, within your main warehouse you could have a damaged good area. It doesn't physically have to be one specific area, but it's just a way of grouping products together that are damaged, and you can set up like a virtual warehouse for that. Throughout the system there are many reporting and inquiry screens that will allow you to always see the value of the inventory in the various warehouses and the quantities that are available. Now at this point we're going to set up a warehouse, and the very first field on the screen is the warehouse field, which can be defined as a numeric field or an alphanumeric field, and we're going to call ours W1. The warehouse type and reporting warehouse fields are for informational purposes only. The warehouse type can be a central warehouse, a reporting warehouse, or just a regular warehouse. So the various values allowed in this field are a C, an R, or a W. The reporting warehouse field will let default here to the main warehouse that we've just entered here. Again, this is just for informational purposes solely in this screen. It may be used in a future release of the software more extensively. We'll enter our warehouse name, Western, and then we can enter an address if we wish. Postal code, telephone number, and fax are not mandatory, but can be entered, and I will come back later on and enter those in. But just for the speed up the tutorial a bit, we'll just skip those fields. The provincial license field is used as the default provincial or state license that's used in the purchase order entry module. By entering a provincial license in this field or a state license, tax will not be calculated for purchases that are made into this warehouse. The same applies to the federal license field, and if by entering a code here, then during the creation of purchase orders to this warehouse, taxes will not be calculated. These fields can be populated with any character whatsoever. It doesn't have to be a specific valid license number field. It can be any character whatsoever, and that will turn off the tax calculations on a provincial state level or a federal tax level. They're non-mandatory fields. The general ledger branch code must be set up to be the ledger that the warehouse activities will be charged to. So in our case here, we're just going to enter branch number 1. The costing warehouse field applies only to users of standard costing only. If standard costing is not your methodology, then just populate the costing warehouse field with the warehouse that you have set up here on the top part of the screen. So on our example here, we're just going to do a list of values on this and select a different costing warehouse. We're going to select the OM warehouse. And what this will do is point the costing records that have been set up in costing file maintenance IN0 110 to point to warehouse OM. And a brief example would be if you had warehouse A, B, and C, and you have set up costing records for warehouse A, and then you go and create warehouses B and C, rather than having to go in and create costing records for warehouse B and C, you can use this costing records for warehouse A. So in my example here, I already have costing records set up for my OM warehouse, so it's not going to be necessary to set up costing records for the W1 warehouse. As long as the costs are going to be the same in both warehouses, then I've eliminated a lot of data processing through the product cost maintenance screen IN 1110. It's very beneficial only when the costs are exactly the same in the costing warehouse and the warehouse that you have set up in this screen. The returning warehouse is used within the customer service area for managing returns of inventory through the RMA entry process. So the intention here of the returning warehouse is to designate a default location for the return of all merchandise from the customer. So you may have shipped your goods out of warehouse W1 for your customer, but your customers may return it through another warehouse. So we'll do a list of values on this screen, and we'll select a warehouse for returning our goods. So in this case, we'll select the TOR warehouse. Our calendar is the calendar number associates the warehouse with a calendar that's already been set up in calendar file maintenance GB 1400, and it's a calendar of working and non-working days. So this is used for shipments and in the manufacturing process if you're using our manufacturing module. So all shipments that are scheduled for delivery will refer to the calendar for this particular warehouse to ensure it's not a holiday or a non-working day. And various calendars can be set up through calendar file maintenance. There's a separate tutorial on calendar file maintenance. So in our case here, we're just going to enter calendar number 1. Cutoff time field is non-mandatory, but it's used to set up the time in which orders will no longer be shipped from a warehouse. So if you're doing some shipping through your shipping confirmation screen, this would be the cutoff time for shipment of goods for a particular day. This will only apply to orders that are entered and scheduled to be delivered on the same day. So you can populate that with a time. Now we can save our record, and we now have a new warehouse set up in the screen. There's a formats button here and a document text button. You can listen to the separate tutorials on how these various features work. I won't go into details now because you'll find these various pop-up boxes on many of the other applications in the system. So please listen to the tutorials on format definition and document text definition. The next step would be to go into the user file maintenance, and we're going to fast track into that. That's program GB 4200. At this point, what we have to do now is set up each user that will be using this newly created warehouse to have access to that user. So we're going to go into query mode here, and we're going to select our user, execute query, and these are the various warehouses that the user currently has access to. The OM warehouse is their default warehouse at this time, so any screens that they go into, the default warehouse would be OM. So we're going to come down here, and we're going to do an insert record and insert our warehouse that we just created and save the record. Now the user SDC test will have access to this warehouse. Another important step after setting up your warehouses is go into reason code maintenance GB 4300, and set up for your various reason codes that exist the particular warehouses. There's a separate tutorial on reason code maintenance that explains the use of the reason codes. So that's the tutorial on the warehouse file maintenance.